Welcome back for part 2 of lesson 7, the attack on the family. And we're going to start looking at how promiscuity was promoted. In the year 1826, there was a Welsh socialist in Indiana named Robert Owen who wrote the following: I now declare to you and to the world that man, up to this hour, has been, in all parts of the earth, a slave to a trinity of the most monstrous evils that could be combined to inflict mental and physical evil upon his whole race. I refer to private or individual property, absurd and irrational systems of religion, and marriage, founded on individual property combined with some one of these irrational systems of religion. Wow. Sound communist to you? Definitely does to me, not to mention just a squash of socialism besides. The communist ideology, the socialist ideology, goes hand in hand with promiscuity. It encourages people to get rid of divine teachings and reject tradition of any kind, abandoning moral restrictions and giving into base desires for the sake of the revolution and liberation it provides. In other words, anything goes. Communism leads people to believe that if private property becomes public, people will not fight over it. Do you really believe that to be true? I don't. Because there are always going to be some people, even among the communist and socialist elites, who are going to take the attitude, because they are the elites, they deserve more. You know, no rules for me, just for thee. But I go on. They openly advocate promiscuity, or free love, as the answer to sexual desire. So let's look at morality. You know, if the Bible is not the Christian source of morality, then ask yourself, what should be? For the Christian, there are two basic truths. One, God exists. Two, God has spoken to us through the Bible, His Word. If these are not the starting point for what we believe and how we live our lives, then we are just like everyone else, looking for answers in a world that has none. What happens if the Christian doesn't turn to the Bible for morality? Well, that leaves us only one choice. We turn to the human conscience. And believe me, that can get pretty messy. Now, the human conscience is like an alarm system warning us when we transgress our moral standard. The problem is our conscience is only as good as the moral standard that informs it. If it's not the Bible, then we will look elsewhere. And some of the places we look are not good. Our biggest competitor to biblical morality is the social conscience, or the social consensus. This means our morality is shaped and changed by the culture around us, which means what we think this day could be different next week. Consider how a generation age of homosexuality and divorce were not accepted, even considered sinful. Nowadays, both homosexuality and divorce, in addition to a great number of other things, are normal. And even adultery isn't as bad as it once was. The Jews had the same problem with the Promised Land. I offer you a text from the book of Judges, chapter 17, verse 6. In those days Israel had no king. Everyone did as he saw it. The people of God abandoned God, and within 2 generations were doing evil in the eyes of God, tearing down the places of worship, the altars of God, and building in their place shrines to deities that they're false, untrue. What is the view of many, if not most Christians today, on these two topics alone? Well, it's answered up in Get That Quickie Divorce in Las Vegas. Says we don't hold much importance on staying married. If it's inconvenient, if it causes troubles, well, you can always get a divorce. When God sent us forth into the world as partners, male and female, husband and wife, woman and man, it was with the idea that, well, like in the vows, till death do us part. I realize there are times when divorce is the only answer. It's a sinful one, but it might be the only one. But then that's why Jesus came into the world, for forgiveness. But to take marriage as something to be taken lightly? No. And as far as homosexuality, again, the church has done a tremendous amount to compound that problem. Just like sex outside of marriage is a sin in the eyes of God. It's that vulnerability thing I talked about a little bit ago. Homosexuality is too. Unfortunately, many Christians in the church have viewed homosexuality as, oh, this is a great unforgivable sin. No, it's a sin. Like premarital sex is sin. Like lying is sin. Like cheating is sin. Like, well, the list goes on. And as a result, they have alienated a great many people that could find a home, solace, comfort, and direction for their lives in the church. Except the church has turned them away. One more thing. You gotta ask yourself, why should the Bible be our source for morality? Because without it, we are like ships adrift on the sea. Like I said a little bit ago, the sexual consensus this year could be radically different than the one next year or next month. The Bible is the only rock upon which to build morality. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said the following, from Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 and 5. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall, because it had its foundation on the rock. That's what God's Word is, a rock. Now, in our next lesson, we're going to be looking at a variety of areas that bear testimony to the moral collapse of America. Here are just a few of the topics we'll touch base on. The diseases that result from casual sex, sex education, sexual offenders, rape, pornography, divorce, single-parent families, babies and abortion, booze and drugs, corruption, religion. I hope you'll be with us in Lesson 8. Until then, God bless and have a great week. Bye now.